welcoming everybody and also introduce our initiative. So I will just start with sharing my screen and my slides. It would be a bit easier also for me to introduce myself there. Okay, you see my screen? Good.
Yes.
Okay, so today our topic, Julia previously already mentioned, is AI without hype, practical tools for NGOs. And once again, we talk about this topic is because from our survey and our research, the top few reasons for or people why people find it's challenging to adopt AI or implement it in their workflow, oftentimes. So the top two we can see is often related to risk, related to data privacy, related to if this AI tool is actually reliable. But then afterwards, the top reasons following that would be, for instance, there are too many options available out there, and they don't have the time to look into each of them or test them, and therefore they find this overwhelming. Or there's actually a lot of hype or noise around AI and what it can do. And so here today, we're really giving a closer look on this. And related to the risk side, we also have another workshop coming up specifically addressing the reliability of AI and also data protection are relevant topics. And so that will be on the 30th of this month. And I'm Gabriel Wang, and I'm the AI solution architect at AI for NGO. So I started with the technical implementation. So I have background in data science and machine learning, and I started with building technical solutions. But then soon I realized that at this moment, um, it's more is needed because the current unclear regulation and also like there are a lot of ethical challenges around the AI, and so we want to help educate people, give them more information on how to use this tool. And so today, a few things before we start. Sometimes I speak a little bit too fast, and this is from the feedback, and you can always let me know in the chat, or you can unmute yourself for a moment and let me know. Yeah, and also I would be happy if you can keep yourself muted during the presentation. There will be three open question and answer and discussion sections. And so at that time, you are free to join us. And yeah, I also would love if you participate and ask any questions. And lastly, we also designed some small quizzes in Zoom to help validate your learning throughout the workshop. And so, yeah, you can also participate in that, strongly encouraged. And with that being said, why this workshop and why now? I previously already said a little bit. So we want to be very realistic because helping NGOs to figure out or quickly with very little resource to figure out what is real and what we can actually do starting from today is very important. And then also there's another component that is the incoming AI Act. How in the Article 4 there is a requirement for AI literacy training for the staff at organizations. And we also want to use this as an opportunity to help people build a strong knowledge foundation to understand how to use AI effectively, but also safely. And so what we will walk away with today is first, I wish we will have a practical understanding of generative AI and its core capabilities. And we also will talk about prompting techniques that can help you get good output more effectively. And lastly, we want to have show you a few realistic generative AI use cases for your workflow and that I believe that we can quickly start implementing for ourselves. And additionally, we also have a toolkit of reviewed tools that I created and with additional resources that you can use to continue your learning. And so, three sections. We will start with what is AI and what are its capabilities. And so, for those who have been in this workshop, this is a little quiz. And I'm sorry, like we already have like previously in our AI crash course, we have talked a little bit, but this is a quick review. Julia, is it convenient for you to launch the survey or I should do it?
Could you do it, please?
Okay. That I may need to stop sharing really quick. Poll and quizzes, launch. Could you see the poll and quizzes?
Yep, we can see it.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Before.
And previously, some people didn't know what is a Roomba, so if you also have similar questions like this, you can let me know.
It was not Roomba mapping the room, it was the grass mower in the first
Martina is
one.
asking. Martina is asking, yes, what is Romba?
Roomba is these round little robots that you put in your room and then they will go around and clean up your room. I don't know if you have seen one of those. I think maybe I should like try to change it to a better word instead of just saying it's a Roomba. Okay. We would wait a little bit more. Okay, 10 seconds more and I will continue with today's session. Okay, so then I will end the poll here. Um, so could you see the result also? Okay, so everybody thinks that Google Photo auto-tagging people in the photos is AI. And a lot of people also think that Netflix recommendations based on watch history is also AI. And the answer is actually all of them are AI. And the thing is that AI has been a thing or existed for more than 60 years, and a lot of things, for example, banking system using AI a lot, insurance industry use AI a lot, so some parts of our healthcare system, and so this has been existing in our life for a long time. But right now, something have changed, especially since the release of ChatGPT. So. From there on, let's look a little bit deeper because AI has a very broad definition as any system that simulates human intelligence and problem-solving skill. But what really changed is now we have generative AI, which is a type of AI that can generate new data that is similar to its training data. In this case, we have this example from OpenAI ChatGPT. Um, because it is trained on large amount of data that is scraped on our internet. And so the training data, including primarily texts. And so for this type of generative AI, they can generate text. And in this case, the user input, which is also something called prompt that later we will look more into. Can you write a haiku about peace? And it can create output that is similar to the human input, which is in this case text. And a level deeper is called a large language model and or LLM. And this is the foundation for most of the generative AI application. It is at the heart of it. And that is also because the fundamental of human communication in most of the cases is language, or especially text-based language. And but previously we already said that the training data can vary. So it's not only limited to text, but also video, image, graphic, and sometimes audio. So this is also why that you would see a lot of these language model, it requires you to type something as input and create something out as output. And so generative AI's capabilities allow you to create really diverse outputs. I mean, depending on what kind of training data it has received. And so the most common or popular one we can see today is mostly text to text, but it could also be text to audio, text to code, text to image, video, and more. And so, and I'm pretty sure we have already heard of some of this, and let's go into it and have a closer look. And so text to text, this is the core, this is the classic. And what it can do now is first, it can, of course, generate content. And we see a lot of people using them for drafting documents, emails, program outlines, brainstorming, and presentation content, etc. And it can also transform your writing. So for instance, to a specific tone for a specific audience, whether you're speaking with children or you counsel, of course, you use different tone and the type of language. It can also help research report to turn research reports to an action plan, etc. And later we will have demonstration when we come to the use case. And it can also help translate your document into different languages, analyzing text, data, and create summarization, and also provide feedback for your own work, which is personally, I think, I often find very helpful. And currently, the usability is very high for text to text. And this is also why the most popular AI tools out there are often text to text as foundation. And so, including Copilot, Gemini, Cloud, ChatGPT, and many more. And the second capability is text to image, but also image to text. And so what this can do now, first of all, we can analyze images. So previously we already said Google auto tagging photos. This is AI. And so we can auto label photos, create image descriptions for accessibility, and the usability is also very high. And the second is that we can recognize text inside an image. So analyze photos of hand-filled forms or directly analyze photos with multiple languages inside without additional work for translation. So this is also very high. And the tools are once again similar because a lot of them do accept images as input, these tools. And here I have an example. So I have this photo of a protest. I want to understand basically where does this come from? And so I want to analyze this image and also recognize the text of these inside of this image because I believe that is relevant and helpful for me. And so I put this into ChatGPT and I said there is a photo from climate protest. This is as much information as I can get. And I want you to analyze the photo to help me understand the potential context, like which city, time period, purpose, etc., and output the potential context in a table. And what it proposed, so it hypothesized a few options. And the top one is Zurich, Switzerland. And it also gave me the reasoning. So there are visual and linguistic clues in the photo and it proposed the likely time period of October 2021. And so it talked about, and then like once again, a reason why this period fits with the COVID, having masks and climate marches, and that was before COP26. And and then when I do actually, so this is of course a challenge that I set for ChatGPT, and this photo actually does come from so October 22nd, 2021. So the time is very correct, and this is the climate protest before COP26 from Zurich, and so it is rather accurate and is very capable of analyzing photos or have the vision capability and recognizing text inside of the image. And lastly, now you can also generate images. So previously, like, or a lot of people ask, oh, how can we create campaign visuals, posters, or like others? Can we just like use AI to generate these images or graphs? The answer is I put usability medium. It means that it depends. And so these are some example tools. And also just so you know that these tools that we put here, we also have the toolkit that you can use later on with my comments and also a usability rating. And so don't worry. So in this case, looking at the user, the generating images, the specific capabilities, the usability is for instance, when we're trying to create a campaign visuals and posters, here I created a sneaker donor limited sneaker campaign for WWF, which I don't think they will ever have. But last time somebody from WWF was in the meeting and he quite liked it. So this looks very good, very realistic and good composition. But when we want to create some other type of images, for example, a complete infographics from scratch, and here we can see that things start to not work very well, even though from afar this looks fine. But then if you really look at, for instance, how the labeling or the chart, it does not really make any sense. And this is actually also one of the recommended use case from some websites. And so this goes to show you that until you try something out, looking at these recommendations with a lot of hype, it's really difficult to figure them out. And the next capability, so text to audio and audio to text. And what it can do right now, or what it can do for quite a while, is to transcribe audio. And so transcribe, translate, and label stakeholders, interview, or create a meeting recording. So these are things that we can do in Teams, Zoom for a really long time already. And the usability is also very high. And now there are some new tools that basically not only do the transcription, but also turn these transcriptions into well-structured meeting summary or something, key documents that you will need. And so it takes it a step further. And you can also use it for real-time voice translation. So real-time translated subtitles in Teams or even in PowerPoints. And the usability is medium. So for example, now I can already turn on this subtitle. And what we find that it often works if you have one presenter. So right now it should be working quite okay, or at least this is our colleague who speak different languages confirmed to us. But when you have, for instance, multiple speakers in the same meeting and the real-time translated subtitle often did not work the best. But there are also possibilities to look at DeepL or Kudo, so these more specialized tools. And lastly, we can also generate audio. So we can use this capability to create voiceover, background music, or sound effect for your campaign video, or make podcast or short audiobook directly from text. And the usability at this moment is also actually quite high. And these are some example tools. And here I will have a demonstration using 11 Labs and HeyGen.
Hi, this is Gabriel. I like using AI voiceover for making videos for 3 reasons. 1, I'm very forgetful, but AI will follow the script perfectly. 2, we tend to say many filler words like but AI does not. 3, I can use many voices and choose the one that fits the message the best.
And yes, so I make a lot of videos. Sometimes I I need to repeat saying something for 10 times, and because I say too much filler words, or I just occasionally forget one word or two. And also I'm a fan of this old grandpa voice. And the second demonstration is,
Hey, ich denke, du machst einen großartigen Job im heutigen Workshop. Ich hoffe, du findest es interessant und zögere nicht, uns Feedback zu geben. Wir würden das sehr schätzen.
yeah, and so that is me speaking. It is still my voice, but for the record, I don't speak any German. And so basically, we can do this kind of different cross language voice generation today using AI, which I also think this can be quite useful if you find the right use case for you. And there are more capability, for example, text to video and video to text, and now we can create short video clips with simple motion. Uh, this usability, I would say, is still low. It's not because that the visuals are not good, but sometimes what we want to use requires a certain level of consistency. And previously, we had the problem of like AI generated images have multiple fingers or lack of fingers. And one example would be, so for instance, in Sora, now it already looked pretty good, but in the same time, like researchers and developers are still looking to improve the consistency of the motions. And you can also generate cloned video avatar, which is deepfake. And unfortunately, the usability is quite high. But also, this is sort of the situation. If you find a good use case, for example, previously, I could also clone myself to create different videos as teaching material. But in the same time, we have seen, for example, people deepfake politicians with disinformation. And that could also be a bit of concerning. And once again, these are some of the example tools that uses text to video and video to text capability. And fundamentally, because code is also a language, it's just a language for machine. And so this was also something easy for AI to understand. And so what it can do right now is to write code in any programming languages, or it can also help developers for debugging or create proof of concept applications. And the usability is rather high. And we also have always thought about using AI to analyze data. And I would say this, once again, the usability is it depends. When you have well-formatted data in Excel or CSV formats and you're clear on how you want to analyze it, because AI can run code, and so it can analyze well-formatted data and create visualizations for reporting. But if you have a long text or 100 page of PDF and there are some data within that you would like to analyze, that start to become a little bit challenging. And so this really depends on how clean your data is. And once again, these tools can run certain code functions, and therefore they're also suitable for this type of task. And there are more capabilities that also go beyond what we mentioned before. For example, generate presentation. People have asked us, can we use AI to generate presentation? Or every time when Copilot are doing some of the announcement, people are very excited. I would say that unfortunately usability is not super high. You would often get generic bullet points plus an AI generated image, but that's a lot of time we need to make slides beyond that. But what I do find super helpful is that to use chat-based AI to help draft the slide structure and content. And then from there on, you have the content, and then you can put things together from your perspective. But you can also use AI to suggest the slide structure or the layout. And chat-based AI, once again, very helpful. And we also can use AI for web-based research. And even though most of the popular AI tool already integrated this function, and there are some, I would say, specialized tool that is a bit more advanced. And so what they can do is to quickly find highly relevant sources with summary for you. And it also, while providing good citation on each article, and the usability is quite high. And one thing is AI overview from Google, and now we kind of like can't avoid this anymore. And another one is called Perplexity, and later we will also have some demonstration on that. And a little key takeaway for the input we just had is a large language model is the foundation that powers many generative AI-based applications and different mediums. So the training data and leads to the form of output data, and they can be transformed into each other to generate something new. And many of these generative AI capabilities can be combined for more complex workflows, because a lot of time at work, we work with so many different forms of information. And lastly, chat-based text-to-text capability at this moment still has the highest usability, and it can fulfill most of the use cases in our work so far. And now, whenever you see this slide, it means that we're entering a question and answering and discussion stage. And I would like to know if there's any questions that we have from the presentation that we just had. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. So any questions, any thing you would like to clarify, any curious parts? Okay, then is everything good and understandable so far?
Looks like.
Okay, well, thank you. Then I will go back to the slides. And so the second part, what we want to talk about is about prompting. And so, first of all, what is prompting and why does it matter so much? And so basically, here is the large language model black box. And what we previously already said, large language model is the foundational AI model that powers all these different applications, ChatGPT, Cloud, Copilot. But because how big this AI model is, often with billions or trillions parameters, we don't know exactly what is going on. This is kind of similar to we don't exactly know which neurons in our brain are firing so that I'm able to speak to you. But we do know that there are input and there are output. And so input is, so human prompt is basically what you write in the message box that you send to AI, whether it's write an email. So this is a human prompt. And system prompt is the additional message that oftentimes these so application developers they created for this application to work. So they would say, you are ChatGPT and you are here to help users to solve their problem. And so these things combined is the input that we will put into the large language model, and the large language model will react to it and create an output, which is the LLM response. And that is when you're using a chat model, you would see the output. So the chat gets sent back to you. And because this is the only thing, so the human prompt is the only thing that we have control over. And so the quality of our input will decide the quality of our output. And this is why it matters so much. And also prompting at this moment, so the act of writing instruction, prompting is basically can be considered a new programming language. We can talk to supercomputers now in our own language, which to me is huge and very effective. So before LLM, I would need to write code, for example, this code in Python. And with LLM, what I can do is just directly write in plain English to say, I want to use this data in this table to create a histogram, and both of which leads to the exact same output. And so people are now equipped with what previously was not possible. And so to create good input, a key is to remember that we are kind of like the director for AI, and AI is this super knowledgeable and eager intern that wants to complete the task. But not only for this super eager intern, good communication also matters for Hemingway. And so, say for some good reason that Hemingway is our good friend and that he can write anything for me, and I said, okay, I have this organization and I would like you to create an onboarding document for new volunteers. But first, Hemingway doesn't know the name of my organization. He doesn't understand what's our context, what we're working on, how to structure the onboarding document, what are the necessary information. And so I guess Hemingway will still write something really good, but it might not fit what exactly the kind of output that I'm looking for. And where instead, if I tell Hemingway that you're a technical writer and environmental communication specialist, and so here I set a role for Hemingway, and I say Green Earth advocate, which is giving context to our organization as a grassroots nonprofit protecting local ecosystems, and so more context and information to Hemingway, and create a volunteer onboarding document for our new volunteers, introduce our mission, vision, core value, structure, roles, code of conduct, training, communication next steps. And so these are basically the sections that I'm looking to have in the output. And lastly, I said the output should be structured in Markdown with headings, bullet lists, informal and accessible tone. And so now I've become And now it becomes very specific and clear instruction with context. And so I believe in this case, Hemingway will still write something really good, but more closely, or it is exactly how I want it to be, this onboarding document. And so with that, basically where we can find is there's 6 common building blocks for prompt writing. And this include role. And so to basically set AI, you can set a role for AI, say that you are a technical writer, or say that you're a data analyst, or say that you're a program manager. And then you provide context about your organization, because at this moment, AI does not know what is going on in your organization or what's exactly this task about. And then you specify also task, but also the audience.
No.
Yes. On what is exactly to be done and to whom this is relevant. And then we can also create to, sorry, can we mute ourselves for a second? Yeah, to create the scope in which that basically AI can understand what should be included and what should be excluded. And in the end, we can also ask for specific output format. Maybe we want it to only be 200 words, or maybe we want it to be 2000 words, and in which structure we want that. So these are clear communication building blocks for getting good output. And so there's a little exercise. I want you to look at this prompt and to map the prompt to its building blocks. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so task and audience is once again associated together. I would need to stop sharing and quickly launch the quiz. Okay, can you see the quiz?
Four photo cameras. We those
Yes.
one.
Okay, I will also share my screen so that it's probably easier with also the building blocks. Okay, and we'll wait for a little bit more to end this poll. But I can see that some parts are very clear and some parts seems like a little bit confusing from the result. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and also share the result with you. Okay, and then I will just show the answer here on my slide. So let's go through this together. Everybody got this perfectly correct. you're a data analyst specializing in nonprofit impact reporting, we're setting a role for AI. And the second step, our NGO recently completed a digital literacy program for rural schools. And this is exactly context. And we want to use this data set for program metrics to generate insight. And this is what we're asking, or the task for board members. And this is our audiences. Focusing on summarizing key achievements, trends, and quantitative results. So some people, but I would say actually like from the results, most people believe that this is output format and provide a, no, actually scope and provide the output as 400 to 500 words report with data visualization. And this is also output format. And I think like from I can see people are doing quite well with this. And also another note is that we don't always have to include all 6 building blocks. For some simpler tasks, maybe you only need 1 or 2 or 2 or 3 building blocks, or like when you're writing things together, many of these messages are, for example, the scope and the task and the output format could all just become one part together. And that is also completely fine. But just so you know that there is these building blocks existing. Okay, and a few more tips on how to write good prompt and get better result. And so this thing is more related to basically data privacy and security for your the community members that you're working with, but also for your organization. So we want to anonymize the data, which means that we want to ensure the data privacy by removing sensitive information that could be part of your prompt, that or could be part of your context. So this includes things like personal address, names, financial data, or organizational strategy, etc. And so here we have another quiz on what information do we need to anonymize before we send this specific prompt to AI. And so here we have Water for All has installed 37 wells in 5 districts. Over the past year, supply safe water to 630 villagers. Girls' school attendance rose by 14%. And Mensa 13 now attend this school instead of fetching water. And her mother has said that there's a big difference and our aim. And once again, I need to quickly launch this poll. Okay, could you see it? Okay, very fast answering. Then I will wait for just a little bit more and we will continue. All right. So exactly, we should, in this case, absolutely remove the participant or community members' information, especially in this case. She's also, and also like, by the way, all the data that I created here are synthesized. They're not real person's data at this moment. And so rest assured. And so it is very important for us to remove the names and personal information from here, in which I think this was very clear, and thank you for participating. The next thing is that templating is a very useful and quick way to recycle your good prompts. So that, because sometimes the prompts are really long, I don't want to spend 10 minutes writing a prompt. If something have worked in the past, I could just copy and paste it and also like think about to use it in the future. And so reusable prompts for tasks that you can do either often, or like this prompt is long and effective, or things that you do repetitively. And this helps you to create, not only save time, but also create a consistent style of writing or visual. And so here, you can either write in the chat, or actually maybe write in the chat so that I don't have to relaunch and reshare my screen. But here we have this prompt from this visual design agency. And so basically for creating a pictogram. And it gives very specific style instruction. It describes the output extremely well that I personally will not be able to do because I am not a design expert. I don't know the specific language that's required and also the specific details or design principles behind this prompt. But what I can do is to implement this prompt and get the desired output. And so to test this out, anybody is interested in writing something in the chat, and we can test this out. Otherwise, I will just write something by myself. Octopus. Okay, I like that one. Okay, so this is going to take a little moment. Oh, this seems like a quite interesting and fast generation. And so we have 4 different octopus here and fitting the style description. This one is not against white background, but I guess we have plenty of options. And below are some other design that we've done previously. So one time people said a lock, or jellyfish, butterfly, ambulance, and a water element, etc. And so we can see that the style is quite consistent, and we can use this to repetitively generate the things that we would like to do. One thing, for example, at this moment with image generation is that, so previously we see people do campaign, but then some people but there were some controversy because related to the style or related to, or like photorealism, and people have raised some questions. But then like with certain design elements like the pictogram, this is quite a neutral thing, and this can also be easily implemented or used for internal reporting as a visual element. And so also really depends on the specific use case, but recycling or using specific prompt templates can help you to get the same result over and over again. And the third tip is use examples as instruction. And so this also makes sense in this in the way that when we are working with our team member, if there are something that I have in mind that's very specific, maybe I do not directly describe how to do this or how to complete the task, but instead I show how this should be done. And so by creating examples or looking at how in the past things were done. And so this is very effective when you're working with AI, when you need to classify things, and it basically saves you a lot of time from explaining or instructing. And one example is here, for example, this is called sentiment analysis. And when we want to do sentiment analysis, because maybe we gathered feedback from online at different review, or there are feedback that's sent to us through different channel, and we want to understand what we're doing good, what we're not, as an example, or on social media, there are different comments. And so here we have, for example, I reached out for assistance multiple times and never received a response. Very disappointing experience, and this is a negative. So that's all I do. I wrote negative. Their disaster relief efforts were swift and incredibly well organized. We're so grateful, and this is a positive comment. And I said output in a table. This is the only instruct that I'm giving AI. And the example here, so these are the prompt that we just saw. And here are other comments that were gathered on social media or through other channel, and I'm not providing any additional instruction. And here, what I get is an output table. So we have the statement, and then here is classified sentiment. Some are positive, some are negative, and there are also mixed reviews. And of course, I still recommend that whenever we do this kind of thing, we do validate, we have to verify if things are actually being properly categorized, but most of the time this is quite effective. And in the end, I can also say create a pie chart to visualize the result. And here then we will get a pie chart that help us to basically visualize sentiment distribution of NGO feedback, mostly positive, some percentage are negative, and there are also small percentage of mixed review. And so this often seems to be a little bit of difficult question, but which task should you use examples instead of writing instruction? Once again, I will stop sharing and launch this quiz. Okay, and we'll wait for just a little bit more before we move on, and I will also explain one by one about the potential choices. Okay, then I'm going to stop the quiz now. So the correct answer, or the one I wrote here, is to categorize program volunteer skill into language fluency, coordination, content creation, etc. Because as we said, it is very effective when you need to classify things. But for other tasks, for example, draft an onboarding document for new colleagues, of course, this we can apply examples in many different ways. But here, for example, if we use a past onboarding document to create a new onboarding document, that could be an example, but in the same time, that could also just be a lot of context, or the examples could be too specific. The process text in photos of hand-filled application forms. To be honest, I also agree with you that some of these can be done with examples, but here what we're mostly relying on is not the examples that we provided, but basically the previously image to text and text to image capabilities of AI that we previously mentioned. And there are also some additional resources that we would like to share with you. So in case you want to explore more or learn more about this. And so there is Prompt Engineering Guide, and here they very in-depth talk about more prompting or very advanced prompting techniques. And another place is where you can find good prompt template, and this is called Prompt Base. You can buy a prompt for less than $5, and it will help you to generate something with more consistency. For example, the Chrome style images that I personally will not be able to create. And so this is, yeah, some good resources that we will also be sharing with you in the toolkit that we will send. And so from here, with the inputs that we just had about prompting, is there any questions, any comments or thoughts? And you can write in chat, or you can also just directly talk with me. Or is everything clear? And
There's one thing, sorry.
Great.
It's incredibly rich, so it's really difficult to formulate questions because it's so overwhelming, but thank you so much for this. One question that I had when you were talking about personal information, and there was this individual mentioned in the text. From a journalistic point of view, you would want to have individuals and persons, quotes, citations, personal opinions in a text. So when I write something, I would want to have that personal angle in there. So is your recommendation specific just to the AI tools, or how should we deal with that? I mean, from a journalistically, it would mean that the person has agreed to be interviewed. In this case, that girl was a minor, so the parents had kind of also agreed to her being covered in an interview. But if that's the case, then the person can be sorry, I didn't even put my picture. The person is should actually be mentioned. So there's a bit of a tension there.
Yeah, I understand your question, and I would say what we're talking about very specifically is about the use of AI tool. And for instance, if you have obtained explicit consent from the girl and her parents, and then like you're writing an article that's going to be published, and how you handle and use that data is one thing where you anonymize this girl, because sometimes in journalism we will interview realistic people and then we will still anonymize the data or give them like an alias. And the case with AI and this data privacy or safety issue is that first of all, not all AI tools are GDPR compliant, or that is compliant to the data privacy regulation at wherever that you are located. And so, especially for tools, for example, like DeepSeek, there is deep concern related to data privacy, because this tool is from China, and then like there is no agreement or regulation that can be reached to how this data is being used once it is sent to this model. Secondly, a lot of AI platforms, they use users' input, so your prompt, as training data for their AI model, because at this moment, data is kind of like new oil and they all want to get their hands on it. Unfortunately, this also, for example, once this real person's information is trained to be part of the knowledge of this AI, then it is very difficult for you to, because based on, for example, GDPR, you should be able to remove your data from this. But with AI, this case is extremely tangled. It's difficult. And there are also cases, so malicious attack to AI model, that basically hackers try to get the training data back out from AI model. So previously they have managed to do this with some people's that's located in US with their social security number and their home address from the AI model. And so we're trying to prevent this kind of thing. And I believe that it's important to preserve the personal opinion and angle. And what we could do is when we are putting these data into it, we don't have to change the opinion, but we anonymize the data, or maybe we just write AN, so the initials instead of the full name. And so these are the considerations. And just a little bit of addition, I would also just share my screen, and we can, for example, if you use any AI tool, what you can do is to go to settings and go into data control. And some companies, for example, Copilot, they say that we don't take your data for training purpose, but ChatGPT still do. What you want to do is to turn this improve model for everyone off. And because if improve the model for everyone, so that is on by default, means that they will take your data to train their model. But they rephrase it in such a way that a lot of people don't realize. And so, yeah, that is some things that we can do also from our side. Yeah, I hope this also answered your question. Yes. Sorry, you're muted.
Yes, it does. But since I've just unmuted, can I ask you one other question?
Yes.
When you showed the pictograms, I thought I mean, this is great. You see how this suddenly appears and within seconds, and you see the use case. But at the same time, I suddenly think, where is actually originality? Somehow this everything that this AI does is based on things that have happened before. Okay, everything that happens is based on something that's happened before, not just AI. But when I go and I work with a designer to develop a new set of pictograms, for instance, I actually hope that they don't just put it into AI and are better at it than I am, but that they really develop something new, something fresh. And so where is the originality in all of this? Where is originality actually going to go? So it's a bit of a big question, but it worries me a little.
Yeah, I understand. And I also appreciate that you really care about originality in this kind of like creative process. What I can say that, for example, I would say there are a few aspects to your question. First of all, like where does this originality come from? And I would say this is of debate because at first a lot of people think that AI is just like copy and pasting or doing collaging, putting things together. But then it is from a technical standpoint, not entirely true. What it learns is to create, so it learns the pattern. So it learns to understand what is a pictogram and it learns to predict what is the potential thing. So it learns the overall pattern and try to generate something that is not there before. But whether we can call this originality or creativity is up to debate because this is, as we believe, a very philosophical and human concept. And so this is also, of course, sparked a lot of ethical concern. And we would touch a little bit about the copyright in the next workshop. But to be honest, at this moment, a lot of like the legal system really also struggling with this. Like both in US, in China, but also in EU, this is very difficult, and we have to see how it play out, like when it comes to the copyright. And when you talk about when you mention that when you want to design a series of pictogram, and if the agency and you would wish the agency to not plug them into this kind of AI tool, and then like, but they actually create something new. That is their, so like with the current, for example, regulation, it is basically if they are doing lawful business and being compliant, it is necessary for them to, it's obligated for them to communicate if they have used AI in this, and the same for our organization. And especially with EU AI Act coming into play. But once again, the regulatory space is quite a muddy water at this moment. That's in the US, there's a huge step back on this kind of regulation in the name of innovation or a technological progress. And so that is also quite concerning. But yes, you can also raise the specific requirements that if you're creating something, you can use AI to, for example, sketch up ideas. This is some places, like for example for us, we create drafts, but then we would have to provide the final output as humans, because once again this is our obligation, and also I believe that we can do this thing better. We have to have confidence in ourselves. So yeah, from a legal standpoint, it's completely valid, and you should be provided with this kind of information.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. I see there's a question in the group chat. So from Lena, in our programs, we've been experimenting with AI to improve workflows in multilingual environments, especially writing bilingual reports, English/Russian. I wonder if you've seen any NGOs doing smart prompting strategies across languages, or maybe specific tools that handle tone and translation well. Okay, so quickly answer this. Specific tools that handle tone and translation well. I would say the very specialized tool, DeepL. So I would believe that they are the best translation tool in terms of like being able to do very nuanced language translation. On the other hand, when writing bilingual reports, I would say like large language model can also be very effective. but it might perform. So this is also like a very common issue that we or thing that we see with different teams, especially like some NGOs work across different regions and they have different languages. And they see that the output quality could be different. And that is because, once again, large language model is trained on different language files or texts of different languages. And predominantly, at least I remember for GPT 3.5, it was predominantly trained on more than 90% of the files were in English. And so then you can be very confident that this large language model is have a great understanding and nuanced understanding of English language. But then the second and third main training language would be German, and then also French, Spanish, and Mandarin, etc. And then so the less training data in that specific language, and the more unstable it will like the performance will become. And so if you want to see how well it performs in different languages, I believe that first of all, you should really try because a lot of these models have improved a lot. And you should see if they are nuanced enough for your specific task. But you should also do a little research on basically the amount of training data in that specific language for the AI tool that you're using. And that basically gives you a good understanding on how well it can be in handling that language. And so this is, yeah, my recommendation on this. And if you want to good quality direct translation, use DeepL would be better.
Yeah, thank you, because I haven't knew before about DeepL.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for asking the question. It is very important. A
Yeah.
lot of people do mention that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, then I'm gonna move back to presenting. And so in one of our last section, we would like to basically bring everything together and see is there any use cases that we can implement starting from now. And so use case example 1, which is also one of the most requested use case, is how to use AI to take meeting notes. And to be honest, I also understand why, because personally I need to listen to people in the meeting and I'm not the best at taking meeting notes. And there are already a lot of specialized tools out there. And the good thing about these specialized tools specifically made to take notes using AI is that they're highly automated. Most of the time you just add the note taker. So like you send this application the link to your Zoom meeting or Teams meeting, and then it will join the meeting and it will have the transcription, listen to your meeting, and then like afterwards it will give you a meeting note as a result. And the cons for this is that you would need to pay for additional subscriptions. And so this could be additional 15 to 25 euros per month. And then you often only support meetings in which you can make recordings, but not all our meetings are allowed to have recordings. So for instance, and of course, there are also additional data security concerns that we could think of, but yeah, not listed here for now. And so, and this go back to the specific capability that we talked about, which is text to audio and audio to text. And what it can do right now, so we already know that we can transcribe audio into text, and this we have used for a really long time. And how these specific tools work is also quite simple. And so you have this audio meeting recording, and they will turn them into a transcription. And these tools or applications have a system prompt that instructs the AI to transform these transcription into meeting notes. And maybe they have more advanced features, but this is mostly the core elements here. So quite simple. And this is why I also believe that we can DIY this by using common chat-based tools that we maybe are already using, like Copilot or Mistral, and to do this ourselves. And the pros is that you don't have to subscribe to different tools. If your organization already use a certain tool like Copilot, you could just continue to use that and support various input formats, such as the meeting transcription, because we are the source of information. So either it can be the meeting transcription that we downloaded from Teams, or it could be the text files that I write some bullet points during meeting, or it could also be handwritten notes that I took on my notebook. The cons is that it is a bit less automated. It needs you to put in a little bit of work to do this, and you need to have a clear idea about the AI capabilities. But luckily, we just talked about these capabilities, so I believe that we have the knowledge about it. And so how will we do this? And so the input data could be transcription, short meeting notes and bullet points, or a photo of the handwritten notes. And then, as we previously learned in the second part about prompting, we need to provide context. And in this case, we can use the meeting agenda as context. And then we will get a well-formatted meeting notes that's ready to be shared with your team. And in this case, so I have, sorry, I will quickly refresh the page. And so here is a meeting note that I wrote. So not the best. I have scratched things. The writing is not perfect. Quite terrible handwriting, actually. But these are sort of like a few keynotes, not the best meeting notes. And here is a meeting agenda with the specific time, key topics, lead, and the objective for our meeting. And what I wrote is that we're an NGO for digital media literacy. Use the meeting agenda and my notes to write meeting note with action items at the end. So this is the specific requirements that I have. And I also get a little bit of personal context. I'm Alex. And here, then a little bit later, we get this meeting notes. So here we have the date, time, location, facilitator, and note taker. And these are the attendees, and the notes matching with the agenda and the discussion set summary. And so here we have the topic, who was the leader of the topic, and the discussion highlights and the final decision that have been made related to these topics. And then we also have an action item with the specific due date also coming from my notes and specific owners. And here you give me a little bonus on what we should talk about for the next meeting, but which is also just logical based on the previous agenda that we've had. And so this is basically, yeah, a really quick way on what we can do, combining different capabilities and a little bit of context in the prompt to create a meeting note. And the second use case is that we can turn webinar recordings into different content. So at AI for NGO, we do a lot of open workshop and webinars collaborating with different experts in human rights or digital law, etc. And here we have, so once again, text transcription from this webinar. And I often need to make an event report afterwards. So I need to transform this into a different type of text. And then again, I can transform this into a social media post that maybe we had an event and we need to have a reflection post on LinkedIn. And afterwards, we also want to share a thank you email to all the participants who have joined us during the webinar. And then in this example, so we previously had this webinar. In my prompt, I'm talking about this context. So we're AI for NGO. This is a transcription of our open webinar about AI and human rights. Analyze the transcription and write an event report for this webinar in 400 words with these specific sections that I want. And I also point out who are the speakers. And here we can see that then we have the specific date, speaker, objective, event highlight, and as I requested. And so after we have the event report, I also want to create a LinkedIn post for this event, incorporate some of the highlights and reflections. I also said the tone should be formal and approachable. Do not sound too salesy. And start with a one-line hook, and the post should be to 120 words max. Use only a few emojis and hashtags. And here we talk about the one-line hook. AI can amplify voices or silence them, And here we have the description and also key insight, and a few emojis and hashtags that I didn't like, but these are also things that I could adjust afterwards based on what I believe is better. So once again, I think AI is fantastic for drafting or give you a head start, but as humans, we should be finalizing the work. And then I said, write a thank you email to the workshop attendees and stay connected. The email should be 120 words max. And here we have a short email to thank you and also invite everybody to stay connected and with warm regards, even though Barbara is not really is not part of AI for NGO as founder, but so here it was there's some lack of context and so something missing. But once again, this is a draft that we can continue to work on. And so very quickly, I completed these tasks in about 10 to 15 minutes. And of course, there are a bit more time that I should spend on verifying and then like improving the drafts, but this already helped to give me a good start. And the third use case is research and draft report with visualized data. And I think like many of us do this quite often. So we start with a research question, and we will get the research result using some specialized AI tool with sources, because it's very important to validate information that you are provided by AI, and this is very important also for some other reason. Once again, if you're interested to know like the risk or how reliable AI are, the workshop on the 30th would answer this in better detail. And then from there on, we can generate data visualization using the research results, and we can also use that to transform this result into a draft report. And so we can start with the research question. So here I said, find data on digital media literacy in European countries, output in a table. A very simple prompt. And this tool is called Perplexity, and Perplexity is specialized in doing AI-powered search. And so here it will give me the answer as an AI summary, but in the same time, it also provides sources. And so, for example, here we have 8 sources. Oftentimes, it does manage to find quite good and credible sources. But still, I would invite people to always validate these information. So a lot of time, I find that my responsibility shifted from scrolling through pages of Google to validating the information. And so here we have basically the data that we find. On one hand, we have the media literacy index from 2023, and on the other hand, we have the basic digital skills from 2023. And so I copy and pasted these data into ChatGPT, and I ask create a bar chart to compare the media literacy index and basic digital skills across different countries. And here we have as a comparison in different colors. And of course, I can also continue to adjust this or prompt this to even further. And to understand why there is a discrepancy between digital media literacy, I also ask what could be the reason for such differences and write a 300 words report. And so there start to have some reasoning about policy, media, social culture factors. But we can see that because this tool is very specialized in research, it is not really the best at writing reports. And so this, once again, is a draft as a starting point. And combining the two, we can move on and working our report better. And of course, once again, it's also important to validate these sources. And okay, I want to know if we already have any questions, or I have 2 more use cases, or we should finish everything then.
Hello, I have a question. I put it in the chat, Gabriel. My question is, how do you know if the sources are credible? I mean, what can you do to really check if this is AI is putting so many things together which are not true? So how do you check the sources?
Exactly. that is a really good point, and this is why for example, a lot of time people try to use tools like ChatGPT or Copilot and directly get the information. Sometimes they are very correct, but sometimes they hallucinate. So this is an actual technical term called hallucination, and it will hallucinate and basically make up nonsensical information for you. And the reason why, for example, when I do research, I use tools like Perplexity is because, once again, I share my screen real quick. So for instance, here, like we can see where this come from or this stats, or I can directly just go to the sources. Sometimes I actually prefer to directly go into the sources, and then I can click open, and then to just directly use this information instead of like what AI provides me here. Because to be honest, like sometimes I also think that we should be a lot more careful. And so the principle that I try to follow is when in doubt, verify, verify, verify. And once again, like basically hallucination is an inherent issue for LLM, because on one hand you have like creativity, so AI can generate or create things that weren't there, but it can also create because they don't understand what is reality and what is not. And so this is our human work to be done. So look at the citation or directly go into the source material to find this. And even in the example that I just provided, and thank you for asking this question, that for example, it did not include all the EU countries as I asked it. And so these are the key questions that we should really ask ourselves. But so the key lesson is more like we should not directly only look at one AI answer. And in my previous crash course, I also encourage people to combine Google and this kind of AI. And here I recommend that we always go into the source data that we can find.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for asking the question, because like for us, we're creating this kind of workshop to show people what is possible and how can we do them, but in the same time, like it is not necessary for us to convince people to use AI tool, but on the contrary, like I want to advise people to use AI tool where they see fit. For example, brainstorming, it can generate ideas, but like when it comes to factual things, we should be very careful. Okay, then I will continue with the next two use cases. Sorry, I lost my slides for a second. Okay, and so once again, we're getting back to Hemingway for actually create this onboarding documents for the volunteers. And so we previously already seen this prompt. I will not read it again. And what we can do in this case is to combine the prompts, and we also have website information on our website because we want to provide more context related to our vision, mission, core values, structure and roles, etc. And so like oftentimes we have this information on our website, and there's also an email briefing on what to do with this onboarding document. And then we put these things together, so the prompt and context from email and website, and then we turn them into the content of the document. And from there on, we can also even take it a step further to transform them into a visually enhanced onboarding document. So here is, so this part is our prompt. And I say you can find the context below. And then I go on to the website. And also this website is what I created using AI in about 5 minutes. And here, this website, we have our mission, our vision, our core values, but also like we can see from the core values, if it's a human created website, we would have also another value here because this does not visually work very well. And so it also on website we explain what we do, etc., etc., and also like some contact detail, things as such. And so this is some context that we just copy and pasted from this website. And then we also have the email. Hi Gabs, thanks for taking the lead. And then here's how these like onboarding things that need to be included, information need to be included as part of the onboarding document. So roles, code of conduct, communication channels, next steps, and requesting for a draft. And from there on, we end up with this volunteer onboarding guide with the mission, vision, core values, organizational structure, key roles, and code of conduct, training development, communication channels, and next step checklist, and some appendix and contact. And this is already nice that after we verify and work on this draft, but we can also take it a little bit further and to turn them into a PDF that is slightly visually better aligned. And so I use this tool called Gamma to create. So I copy and paste the text, put it in, and write instruction on how I would like this to be. And this can then be shared as a website. It can be shared as a PDF file. And here we illustrate our core values, organizational structures, roles, and code of conduct, training development, and all the sections that we previously mentioned here. And so that is also a use case. Different tools will also be shown to you on our toolkit. I will also like have a quick demonstration at the end. And the last example is the final step in the journey of a power user. And so basically we've often seen this evolution of how people use AI tools. And so beginning they would use AI as a search engine to try to find information. So like simply querying questions that you would with Google, like who was the first female astronaut? And then people then realize that, oh, actually, this is not just a question answering machine. I can use this for more things. And so they start to use it for a variety of complex tasks that is mostly text-based, like extract contact data from the screenshot and output in a structured table. But we realized the last one is when we previously said that AI can give you feedback, it can act as your sparring partner, and you can set personas for AI that you can learn from its critical feedback. For instance, we can say that you are the director of EU AI office, you are giving feedback on my proposal. Once again, we use this to see if there's any blind spot, but we should also often like talk with subject matter experts and our colleagues and use your own expertise in this. And a quick example that we can look at. So once again, we have this recording of AI and human rights webinar. And here we say you're the executive manager of AI for NGO, and I want some feedback. And it tells me what we're already doing. So credible, diverse lead voices, inclusive framing, gender neutral language, etc. But then what we can also do better here, long stretches without interaction. There are some jargons that we didn't explain very well, and there's not a lot of representation for the Global South, etc. And these are critical feedbacks that we can incorporate and improve ourselves in the future. And so in conclusion, this is a team of two. AI is your new teammate, and you are in the role of director. And so you have responsibility at 2 points. One is before your input. And so before you send anything to AI, you should be able to define goals and provide enough context for the task to be done. And you should also be able to guide or instruct your teammate, your AI teammate clearly. And your responsibility after AI output is to, as a director, you need to review and refine your teammates' output, and you need to make the final decision on what should be included in this output, and you have the responsibility to ensure alignment, everything is checked and factually aligned, and ethically aligned. And so, key takeaway from today, AI is extremely versatile, and it can be applied flexibly in many scenarios, and for us, having a clear understanding of AI's capabilities allow us to apply it in our workflow flexibly and creatively. And you get to match many things together, and AI teammates also give you a head start but you're the only person who can make decision and deliver the final output. And that is for today. And a little bit before we get into the discussion, so this is a toolkit that we will share with you, and I already write out what are the capabilities and what they're good for and how usable they are, and with the links to each tool that you may be interested in, and here also more resources for learn about prompting. And that is for the input for today, and thank you. If you have more questions, because we already have about 1 minute. If you have more questions and you're willing to stay, then we can also do that.
Yeah. Hi, Gabriel. Thank you very much for the presentation. I have one question. In our NGO, we use AI to write applications for grants. Yeah, it's very helpful, especially helpful for shorter descriptions, like up to 300 words, around that. But it's not doing so well with larger texts or with the big picture, understanding the big picture. Do you have any ideas for improvement? What we So what we can do to make it help us also with the larger picture, because
Yeah. So I would say there are two things I believe that are rather helpful in this case. So I can totally understand that you say that it works better with a smaller, because first of all, you may not be able to provide the sufficient amount of context in one single prompt. So your input is limited, and also, but you can also try to define, for example, how long this be, specific structures. But what I would say could work potentially better for your case is that to break everything down into smaller pieces and to think about how we would complete a task. If I were to write a document like this, I would first think about, I would need to gather all the context, doing research, understand what part of the information, so the scope, what should be part of this proposal or document. And then I would start with an outline. So understand what's the structure of the whole document, and then I work on section by section. And so the same with AI. So instead of using AI and then write one prompt and then expect the output to be created after one prompt, what you can do is to do this in smaller steps. So first create an outline, and then enough context for the first introduction or the specific section by section, and then in the end review the entire draft. And so that should also be able to help. And so just break them into smaller pieces is often help you to be more precise with what you demand from AI, but also help it to be more effective.
okay, so this is what we're doing now. Thank you for confirming. What especially, I'm going to go into details. So what I would expect is that when I write, like say I'm writing 3 descriptions, I'm making 3 small steps, and then on the 4th step, I notice that the AI does not take into consideration what we wrote so far.
Okay.
Right? So he is or it is not correlating the information that we already set, right? So
Yeah.
this is hard for me to navigate. I don't know how to navigate this part, this specific little part.
I understand. And I would also say that, so first of all, it's great that you're already basically taking step by step approach. And secondly, so there is this thing called context window for large language model. And this is basically means that how much context it can take. And this is kind of like humans' short-term or working memory. And we cannot, for example, remember 30 digits while also give out 2 recipes and still come back and remember these 30 digits. And so this also is true for AI. And sometimes like what you can do is either use model with longer context memory, context window, such as cloud. They have longer context window. But also like you can, once again, like if you already have an output, like for example, your document is halfway done, and then you can take this out and then like feed it back in as sort of like, once again, like refresh the memory. So yeah, this is like why it will, like if the document is really long, it will like constantly forget like where you started or like even your initial question. So yes.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking the question. It's a really practical and good one. Is there other questions? Because like I'm also just reading in the chat.
Yeah, there was one question from me. I'm just trying to unmute my video.
Okay.
Now something goes wrong. If you unmute me on your panel, then it's just it would work as well. My video, then unmute.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
No, okay, cool. Now you at least can hear me. But I was I shared the info about the this morning workshop, and I wanted to place the link also to IE for NGO, and I wrongly mistyped in Google search not IE for NGO without S, but I just added S, and I found a website IE for NGO met S in the end .org. And it seems that somebody is copying from you, and it is based in Turkey in something. You have to look at it yourself. It is just IE for NGOs.
Okay.
And I immediately got to the point how to protect your data that you feed online and in the web, how to make a kind of your own copyright. Because the more you feed to IE, the more people learn about you. But there are also bad people that try to use your experience and your knowledge and to steal from you. So how do you protect what you do?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for letting me know. Like I was completely unaware there's AI for NGOs.
Yeah, .org. I just decided not to advertise for them
okay. I will have a
anywhere,
look.
but just
And I would say, so this is a very crucial and also, I would say difficult to answer question because, first of all, copyright, this is something that is like still an ongoing legal processes. And so once again, I'm not a legal expert. I only have, I'm more a technical person with project experience and now focusing on AI governance. But what I can say is that there we do see, for example, like a lot of companies, they're starting to try to have AI read their website as much as possible so that they get to be like appear more frequently in AI's output. But there are also like organizations or personals that we don't want to do this. Some people they have disclaimer or like normally there's this basically like we're constantly having bots crawling the website and then they're trying to take information from websites. And there are often this document or text message that you can write for your website to claim that we do not want to be part of the AI training, etc. But how effective this document is on your website and can it really stop AI or companies from scraping your data? This is also another thing that we will have to see how it plays out. But if you do have this concern, make sure that you add to talk to your web developer to add this information on your website or for your organization. And also be careful and be aware of what kind of data that you put out publicly and turn off, for example, what I just showed, ChatGPT, turn off improving model for everyone, and so that they don't have the right to use your input data as part of their training. Yes, I hope that answered your questions. I wonder if there are more questions for today or in the chat. Okay. If not, then thank you very much for joining us today. And I wish that if you have more risk-related questions, please, join us on the 30th, if you're not already on holiday, and so that we can have a deeper and better look related to the potential issues for using AI and how we can mitigate these kind of risks. And with that being said, then I wish you a wonderful day, whether it's evening or morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you also. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful
you.
day. Bye. Bye bye.
Thank
Ciao.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.